Hello guys and welcome to one more Play It Right. Today in this video we're having a look at Trouble in Templetown, a new game by Too Fat to Fly Games that's coming to Kickstarter. Trouble in Templetown takes place inside the microscopic world of the human body, more specifically inside Stanley's body, and your goal is to prevent parasites, bacteria and other nasty invaders from taking over the body-wide city of Templetown. It's a cooperative game, so you'll need to work together with the other players and take on the roles of white cell agents to secure districts by building immunity walls or by defeating Frankie Bola, the dangerous kingpin virus threatening Templetown. And last, you'll need to collect DNA to protect Stanley from future diseases. Apart from the co-op mode, you can also play the game as a semi-co-op, having a single individual winner, or as a fully immersive solo game. In this video, we're going to focus on the co-op mode. So let's have a look at what there is on the board. First of all, we have the districts of the city, and each district has intersections, which are these nodes here that are connected with these lines, the streets. The triangular areas created by the streets are the zones, and above each district we have the 6 wall zones. You can enter and exit each district from here, and wall zones from the upper intersections. There's the lazy parasites, which spawn and stay in a single zone, and they lay eggs in adjacent intersections. Wandering bacteria move between zones and leave eggs behind as they go. And Frankie Bola, who moves secretly, leaving special clues behind until cornered and revealed. You also have a Frankie Bola board, keeping track of the infected zones. Now, a zone is considered to be infected if it's surrounded by 3 eggs or Frankie Bola clues, so in that case you place an infected zone token and progress on the infected zone track. All players lose the game immediately if there are ever 13 infected zones. But to avoid that, they can try to immunize a district from enemies when immunity blocks have been built in all 6 wall zones, making an immunity wall. All eggs and enemies in the district will be destroyed and returned to the supply, and no new enemies will appear in the district. Any infected zone tokens remain in the district though, to keep count. If they manage to immunize a number of districts equal to the number of players, so basically all the districts on the table minus 1, then they have achieved one of the 2 basic objectives for the game. The second and last objective is to accumulate enough DNA to rewire Stanley's body and prevent infectious diseases in the future. The amount of the DNA that they need to do that depends on the player count. For a 2-player game that I have set up, for example, you need 20 DNA tokens. Each player gets a player board and the matching standee, a random unique ability token, marker cubes of their chosen color, and a hand of 6 action cards. We also have the defense towers, enemy movement tokens in a cup, event cards, weapon cards, and items. The copy that you see here is a prototype, so the majority of the components in the final version of the game will be different. There will be 4 minis for the heroes instead of standees, and Frankie Bola will also have a miniature, and there are gonna be 45 custom-shaped wood meeples instead of standees for the lazy parasites and wandering bacteria. The wall blocks and the defense towers will be in large wooden cubes, and pretty much everything else like the boards, the player mats, the items will be in nice and thick punch boards. Each player has their own action cards that generate action points, and there's 3 different types of them. The move action points are used to move between districts, intersections, and zones. The building action points are used to construct immunity blocks and defense towers, and cure action points are used to remove enemies. As you can see, there are 2 types of action points, each with a number. These indicate the type and quantity of action points that the card generates, and you may use either of the 2 types, but not both. Each player has their own collection of DNA represented by DNA tokens. These tokens can be gained by curing a virus, which gives you 3 DNA, by building an immunity block or defense tower, which gives you 3 as well, or by exchanging action cards, which gives you 1 DNA for each card. You may spend DNA during the game to repair defense towers or buy items or weapons. DNA may also be used to supplement action points from the action cards to move, build, or cure. When spent, each point of DNA is worth 1 action point of any type, and you may spend a maximum of 5 DNA per turn. So each round in Trouble in Templetown has 2 distinct phases, the player phase and the enemy phase. In the player phase, starting with the player who has the first player marker and moving clockwise around the table, each player will take a turn using their action cards to perform the actions that they want from the available ones. The first available action is the move. Each street has a movement cost represented by the dots on the streets. To move from intersection A to intersection B, you need to spend action cards with move action points equal to or higher than the total number of dots between you and your destination. To enter or exit a zone from an intersection is always 1 move action point, and the same holds for moving between districts. You can also use the subway if you have the subway pass token to move between districts. If you finish a move on an intersection with an egg, the egg is removed from the board. And you cannot finish a move on the same intersection with Frankie Bola. You may move to a wall zone from one of the 3 intersections at the top edge of the district at a cost of 2 move action points. Each of these intersections may be used to reach 2 different wall zones. Only this connects to these 2 wall zones, this one with these, and similarly the last one. The wall zones are not connected to each other, so you must spend move action points to return to the connected intersection before moving to a new location. Another available action is to cure an enemy. For that, you need to be in the same zone as the enemy or to use a weapon with range. If you do, you spend 6 cure action points in a single turn to cure a lazy parasite or a wandering bacteria. You then immediately gain 3 DNA and move the marker cube 1 space forward on your player board's cured track. To cure Frankie Bola, it's slightly trickier. First of all, you need to know where he is to actually cure him, as he's been moving around secretly. He starts to become active and leaving clues behind only after 7 districts have been infected, at which point you place a clue token on the subway intersection of a district where the 7th infected zone appeared. We'll explain how you can manage to locate him when I talk about the enemy phase. If he is revealed, then you can never be on the same intersection with him as he's very contagious, so your only option is to actually cure him using a ranged weapon. Another action is to buy weapons by paying their DNA cost. The weapons have marker cubes on them indicating how many times you can use them. When all the cubes are depleted, the weapon is removed from the game and cannot be used again. You can also spend 3 DNA to buy an item and place the item token on your player board. Another available action is to build a construction, as in a defense tower or an immunity block. To build either type of construction, you will need to be in the zone where the new construction will appear, provided that the zone is not infected and that there is no enemy in it, and you spend 5 build action points. Defense towers can be built in the zones from 1 to 20, while the immunity blocks on the wall zones. The defense towers immediately neutralize any eggs on intersections adjacent to the zone, so you remove them and instead place them directly in the zone with a defense tower. Each district may only have 1 defense tower at a time. Defense towers are vulnerable and can become damaged over time. If a construction has 5 or more eggs at the end of a round's enemy phase, it is destroyed and removed from the board. But you have another available action which allows you to repair defense towers with eggs while in the same zone. You can spend 1 build action point per egg and return the eggs to the supply. One last action is to exchange action cards by discarding them to get DNA tokens. After you have completed all the desired actions, then your turn is over and play continues to the next player. Once all players have finished their turns, then play moves to the enemy phase. You start first by resolving the wandering bacteria, then the lazy parasites, then Frankie Bola, and last the defense towers. You always start from the north district and move clockwise to the last district. For each step, you start by resolving the lowest numbered zone of a district. You resolve each wandering bacteria individually by first placing an egg and then moving. You place an egg on the adjacent intersection with the zone entrance, unless there is a defense tower in an adjacent zone, in which case you place it in the same zone as the defense tower. If there is a player or an egg present on the intersection, then place the egg on the next available clockwise intersection. You then check to see if the egg created an infected zone. You move the wandering bacteria to the next empty zone, and when they reach number 20, they jump to the first available zone on the next clockwise district board. Then for the lazy parasites, you do the same, with the exception that they don't move at all. Then we go to the Frankibola step, and you draw one enemy movement token from the cup, evaluate the number of white dots, and place a Frankibola clue token on the first available intersection connected by a street with the same number of white dots as the token. If there are multiple streets with the same number of white dots, start with the street between the two lowest numbered zones. If an egg exists in the intersection, replace it with a clue. If there is no street that matches the number of white dots, or if all streets with the number of white dots are blocked by players or Frankibola clues, then draw another token. If no streets are available after having drawn as many tokens as the number of players, then Frankibola has been cornered and he is revealed. You place the Frankibola standee on the same intersection as the last clue he placed, and now players can finally cure him. So this was Trouble in Templetown. You can find the link for the Kickstarter campaign page of the game in the description if you wish to check it out. I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.